So you're playing Genshin Impact and you're looking to maximize your value. Or perhaps you're new to Genshin Impact and want to make sure you don't make any rookie mistakes. This guide is for you. Today we're talking about 25 plus tips that every player of Genshin Impact needs to know in order to have a great time with this game. These tips are organized into categories such as world, combat, characters, items, and systems. In case you want to hop around and find what interests you the most, you can find these categories in the chapters listed in the description down below. But hey, you could also do a brother a solid and watch the whole thing. But for now, let's hop in. Starting with the world and adventuring. Adventure XP is greater than anything else in this game. You need to bum rush the game to AR 20 in order to unlock the majority of systems. If you're hard stuck, burn through achievements and chapters in your guidebook. Your character level matters when it comes to combat, but everything else about the game is all about adventure and adventure XP. Just to double down on this concept, Battle Pass unlocks at AR 20. There are loads of rewards as well as tempting ways to spend your money hidden in the Battle Pass. You can only benefit from these dailies if you've actually unlocked the Battle Pass, and weeklies of course will require multiple days, so it's better to unlock this as soon as possible. Around AR 20 you will also unlock the Spiral Abyss, which is a spiraling dungeon that can unlock loads of rewards in the game. You'll find the Spiral Abyss way off on an island in the middle of the ocean, and a lot of people have tried to glide there, swim there, create an ice path there. I'm here to tell you there's a much easier way. You can actually teleport the Spiral Abyss island by going here on the map. Here you'll find a puzzle challenge that's pretty simple to solve. Just guide these ghosts back into their positions and you'll create an updraft which you can use to fly into this big purple orb, which turns out to be a warp zone. This takes you right to Spiral Abyss where you can go ahead and start grinding. Next tip, talk to NPCs all throughout the world. NPCs are usually just fodder for buying and selling items or going up to if they have a giant exclamation point above their head. But in Genshin Impact, there's dialogue written for all of them. Many NPCs actually have additional side quests completely hidden with no markers on the map. You have to talk to them to find out. Many NPCs will give you free items as well. If you're mid-conversation with an NPC and you see a small treasure chest icon, go ahead and click on that dialogue choice and that will ensure you get an item. There's a fantastic free 4-star artifact in the cathedral. As soon as you unlock the cathedral, go ahead and walk up the center, look at the nun on the left, and have a conversation. As you're adventuring around the world and discovering all sorts of fun things, make sure to mark your map. You can have up to 99 pins on the map that can be customized by their logo, and this allows you to remember whatever you need to remember. The thing I like to use it for are world bosses, so that way I can farm those, and shrines of depth. You need keys for the Shrine of Depths, which are unlocked in domains, but you may come across these shrines before you actually have the keys, so mark them on your map, come back to them when you have the ability to. Chests are absolutely everywhere in Genshin Impact. You're going to learn this pretty quickly. But what you might not know is that they are a great source of adventure rank. You get between 10 and 50 adventure rank XP every single chest you open. Chests have ranks as well, which will let you know how good the items are inside. Common chests aren't likely to contain much, but exquisite chests will start to contain some greens. Precious chests will have lots of blues and potentially a purple, and luxurious chests are where you get the best items. These will oftentimes require special unique challenges or puzzles to be solved, but it is almost always worth the effort. Speaking of puzzles, do you see random objects in a pattern on the ground? Something that draws your eyes that's a little bit suspicious? It could be a puzzle. If you've played Breath of the Wild, you should understand an incessant urge to complete world puzzles and get items. See 4 carrots in a perfect square? Pull them up and there's a chance a chest will spawn. See a random log sticking out in the middle of nowhere? Walk up it, stand on the end. A chest might appear. See a random rune on the ground? Chest. Rocks piled up in the corner? Chest. Torches that need to be lit? Chest. Random wind wall? I mean, you can see the chest on this one. Because they're full of items and adventure rank, it's always worth diverting your path to get a chest. Loot everything. I know this was in my beginner's guide, but it's worth restating. Loot everything you see. Every item has a purpose, and you won't be hitting that 30k item cap anytime soon. If it turns out you do hoard too much, you can always delete common items. Video in the upper right corner right now. Moving into combat. Number 1 most important tip, go for precision strikes. More damage is of course great, but the most important thing is the interrupt. World bosses can be stunned by hitting their weak points enough times in a row, and this can be crucial for avoiding their highly damaging attacks. Bosses can be found all over the world and they regularly respawn. You'll soon start encountering these around AR 15 or so, but they can be found sooner. They'll be found even more often as your world level increases. Take them down for easy, rare rewards. And as the world level increases, so do those rewards on offer. World bosses, on the other hand, bring the pain. Need a challenge? Go ahead and walk up to one of these guys unprepared. See what happens. Once you get to AR 20, you will unlock these logos on your map that will tell you exactly what that world boss has to offer. level up your AR, level and ascend your party, drink some buff potions, and then go into these manic battles. And don't forget that tip number 1, use those precision strikes. Finally, for combat, aimed shot is great at kiting enemies. Aim shot usually results in a knockback effect. Enemies will have a hard time chasing you down when they simply can't reach you. Aim shot is also great for catching an enemy off guard. Knock an archer off a tower to have an easier time killing him later. Moving into characters. The main story unlocks characters and loads of adventure XP in Genshin Impact. You don't have to rely on roles entirely, because there are 6 free characters in the game currently. But of course there are 18 characters locked behind wishes. If you happen to get these main characters inside of your wishes, that means you just have an extra constellation point to apply. Win-win. When you're assembling your party, always have at least 1 bow user and 1 greatsword user in your party. Bows are great for making short work of weak spots and flying enemies, where greatswords are great for mining and AoE of small enemies. This helps balance out your party so you're ready for anything you could encounter. Next, make sure you master the elements. I have a whole guide on what the elements are and why they're important. Again, that upper right corner right now. But the main purpose is damage and status effects. Later in the game, you cannot live without countering your enemy, so learn how these elements interact, what element should be used when, and whether you want to stun an enemy or damage an enemy. It's all about control, and it's all in your hand. Now that you have your bow user and your greatsword user, now that you've mastered your elements, let's refine your party down just a bit more and look at the fact that characters have passives. While this isn't a primary focus in assembling your party, it is nice to know if you're trying to min-max. Most characters have a passive effect, and some have to unlock those passive effects as they ascend. These passive effects can be anything from reducing stamina consumption while you're sprinting, to increasing crafting effects, or even marking things on your map for you. These can be incredibly helpful, but aren't necessarily game breaking. The next tip, some heroes are going to feel very underpowered when you first get them. But if you give them a complete artifact set and ascend them, then they start to dominate. I personally hated playing Fischl until I ascended her and unlocked a new ability. This changed her impact on the battle, and so it gave her a crit-based artifact build, and oh lordy did she pop off. One challenge with this, of course, though, is our next tip. Unless you grind, you will not have enough XP books for everybody. Choose to level 1 character per element and then 2 additional characters who have good abilities or contribute to the party in some way. This gives you enough variability that you can customize your party to what you're encountering, but not so much that you're dumping all of your currency into everybody. Once you can afford it, make sure you have 2 people per element. This includes your 2 additional characters, by the way. This will greatly increase your chances of success in the Spiral Abyss as you try and go for those ultimate treasures. Next, let's talk about items. Never enhance items without first refining. Refining requires exact copies of an item, where enhancing can use anything. This is especially true with 3 and 4 star items. Never use these as enhancement materials unless you are sure you will not refine with them. It can be very hard to track down additional copies, especially with RNG being RNG. So always, always, always refine first. You also only want to craft items when you know what you need. A lot of crafting materials can be very hard to find. Wasting them could add hours of grinding to your plate. This is especially true with things in alchemy. It can be very tempting to pick up an item or 2 that you think is going to be useful, but it's better to know that you need it, craft it, and use it rather than let it sit in your bag. The exception to this crafting rule, which of course exists, are materials. Some crafting uses extremely common items to create materials for complex items. These usually require time to make, so go ahead and craft a surplus of these so you can use them later down the line. Things such as sausage, jam, cheese, enhancement materials, all great to use as long as you know you've got enough common material left for whatever you need. Our last item tip, select artifacts by the set. There's a quick and easy way to make sure you always get your 2 and 4 item combos with artifacts, and that's simply to select it by the set. Rather than choosing the location that's going to go on your character, choose the set button and decide which set you want to apply. This is also going to help control your destruction mania when enhancing. Don't use items from sets that need that item to complete 2 and 4 item combos. Our last few tips are about systems in Genshin Impact. First of all, know that wishes do not need to be redeemed in quantities of 10. The luck rate carries through regardless of number of wishes consumed. If you really feel you need that additional character item right now, go ahead and redeem those fates. Don't worry. The mercy rule will apply regardless if you're redeeming 10 or just 3. Know that new recipes can be found all over the world. However, you're going to need to learn these before you can make the food or redeem the achievements. You learn these by simply activating them in your cooking menu. Hopefully you've noticed this by now, but I know some people haven't. And last but most important tip out of anything that's been in this video, use your resin as soon as you log in. This is priority number 1, as completing daily and weekly resin requirements basically means you're draining your resin completely, letting it partially fill, and draining it all again. You need resin to be constantly on the recharge if you want any hope of getting your daily and weekly rewards in your Battle Pass. There's actually a pretty big controversy right now about how much these Battle Pass rewards cost with resin, basically requiring that you redeem items to refill your resin. It's a big drama, but it is possible to get this, but you gotta make sure you use your resin right away. Don't let it sit. Alright, that was everything for our tips guide today. Did I miss anything important that you believe every single player of Genshin Impact needs to know? Drop it down in the comments below. And until next time, see ya.